crime in court. This is the Delphi transcript. We're reading through Indiana versus Richard Allen in the homicides of Libby German and Abby Williams. And this is the state's case, part 11, and we are going to go right into it where we left off last, which is we just got off the stand with the lead CSI detective or investigator, I should say, on the scene that day when the girls' bodies were found. So Brian Olahy, formerly with ISP, Indiana State Police, was the lead investigator, technically in charge of the crime scene investigation, and we just concluded his testimony, and now we are moving right along to Lieutenant Brian Bunner, who is also with the Indiana State Police. And let us get started. Oh boy, where's my spot here? There. Okay. So let's get started right where we left off. They went on a morning break. And after they concluded with Brian Olahy, and we are now just coming back on record. Court says, all right, are we ready to continue? Is the state ready with your next witness? Mr. Luttrell says, yes, Your Honor. Prior to that, I wanted to publish to the jury hard copies of 3 slides identified by Sergeant Page yesterday. I did not want to pass any crime scene photos. Okay, but I do have diagrams that I want to pass to the jury. Okay, and that was State's Exhibit 1 is State's Exhibit 182. Okay, so I've got 182, 183, and 184. Are those the ones you're talking about? I'm talking about the topography. Oh, okay, says the court. So you want to publish 182, okay? And Mr. Luttrell says, I need to find the evidence number of these. I apologize. Okay, well, we can bring the jury in while you're doing that. Absolutely, Your Honor. Court says, okay, let's go bring them in. 182 is the topographical, and then there were aerial photos they were given copies of those. The jury was given copies of 183 and 184. Those were the photos with the helicopter. Mr. Luttrell says, right, correct. They were given those? Correct. The court says, but they were not given the photo of the Google Earth map depicted in 182. Mr. Luttrell says, correct. And also, it's the topography slide that he identified. I do not see it in the collection here. What is it? You've been marking those. What is, Mr. Rosie says, those are just my copies. I just wanted to make sure. The court says, oh, you didn't have them? Mr. Rosie says, I didn't have his, in all honesty. Court says, oh, okay, but you've been marking on your copies what they are? I mean, you didn't on Mr. Rosie says, yeah. Court says, okay. Mr. Rosie says, she's got them all filed back there, but these are just, court says, yours? Yeah. All rise. The jury enters the room. The court says, okay, so it's just 182 then. Mr. Luttrell says 182. The bailiff says, thank you, you may be seated. The court says, thank you, gentlemen. All right, you may proceed, Mr. Luttrell. So he says, thank you, Your Honor. Prior to the next witness, we want to provide to the jury hard copies of State's Exhibit 182 that they have seen yesterday. It is a Google Earth illustration, and it does contain some measurements of the area of the bridge and the crime scene. Court says, okay, you may. And it's published. The court says, all right, you may call your next witness, State. Mr. McClellan says, Judge, the state of Indiana would call Trooper Brian Bunner, please. The witness is then sworn in. Mr. McClellan says, will you state your name, please? It's Brian Bunner. And will you spell your last name for me, please? And he does. And how are you employed? With the Indiana State Police. And how long have you been employed with the Indiana State Police? About 25 years. Were you employed in law enforcement before you started with the Indiana State Police? I was. And how long have you been employed in law enforcement in total? About 27 years. And did you go through special schooling or training or become a law enforcement officer? Yes. The Indiana State Police 22-week recruit academy. And what is your role currently in the Indiana State Police? Right now, I'm the lieutenant and I oversee the digital forensics program for the entire state. He's a lieutenant and he oversees the digital forensics program for all of Indiana. So let's let that sink in, considering the fact that there was phone data and things that either were not properly investigated or were buried from the defense. And to be involved with with the digital forensic portion of the Indiana State Police, did you have to go through additional specialized training to be qualified for that position? Yes. Can you tell me? Well, first of all, I'm going to show you what's been marked as States Exhibit 185. Can you tell me what that is? This is a statement of qualifications or a CV or resume, if you will, of my training and experience, a summary of. And does that accurately reflect the training and qualifications and different classes and seminars that you've been through to become a digital forensics examiner? Yes. Judge, the state would move to admit or marked as States Exhibit 185. Um, States Exhibit is offered. Any objection, says the court. Ms. Auger says no. Court says, I'm sorry, is there any objection? I said no, I'm sorry. The court says, oh, okay, I'll show that 185 is admitted without objection. Mr. McClellan says, Judge, the state would move to publish that to the jury. She says, you may, and it is. Trooper Bunner, can you outline for the jury just briefly the course of your progression through the Indiana State Police? You graduated from the Law Enforcement Academy. You then became a trooper, and what happened from there? Eventually, I became a district detective at Connorsville District. From there, I moved on to the Digital Forensics Unit with the State Police out of Indianapolis, and at that time, it was called the Cybercrime Unit. It's been changed now to Digital Forensics Unit. In what year did you move to the Cybercrimes Unit? It's 2009. And have you been with that unit, which is now the Digital Forensics Unit, since that time? Yes. I've either worked as an examiner or been a supervisor within the same unit. Is it fair to say that since 2009, you've gone through annual training as part of being part of that unit? Yes, sir. Can you talk about that a little bit? So, with the evolution of technology, it's always changing, and so we make sure that we always go to yearly training, if not more than one training a year, webinars, including just trying to keep up on the technology to stay current. Is it safe to say that, said this already, but that technology evolves each year? Yes, sir. And so is it important for you to have yearly training to stay up with that technology? Yes, sir. Or the changes in that technology? Yes, sir. Okay, I heard the term network intrusion. Is that the same as cell phone forensics? No, that's totally separate. Can you describe the two? So, cell phone forensics, well, digital forensics is an overall discipline. There's different disciplines within the digital forensics realm. So, you have computer forensics, you have cell phone forensics, you have, drone forensics, internet things, forensics, you have network intrusion or accident responses, types of crimes. So, there's different specialties within digital forensics as well. And you specialize just in digital forensics, is that right? Digital forensics, specifically computers, cell phones, and other digital devices that are brought to us. So, like iPads and stuff. And what type of equipment and or programs do you commonly use to perform your duties? So we have paid programs, commercial programs that we purchase to do cell phone and computer forensics. Some of them are named Cellbrite, Magnet Axiom, X-Ways, so on and so forth. So I don't know what X-Ways is if that's still around, but we know that Cellbrite and Magnet Axiom are the two of the like premier data extraction tools out there. So there's different paid license programs that we use to get into phones and get into computers. And your specialty again is phones and computers. Is that X-Ways? Yeah, I guess well, I've never heard of that, but I guess that's something that I've never heard of. But I know there's other programs as well. This was like a big deal in the Karen Reed case was the different programs, and some of the programs erased the house long to die in cold, timestamp, some meaning you Cellbrite, and then Magnet Axiom actually it didn't they didn't remove it, so and others didn't remove it, so um I don't remember X-Ways coming up. But anyways, sorry. Kind of a brain my brain was thinking while I was reading, sorry. And your specialty again is phones and computers. Is that what you testified to? Yes, sir. And how many phones do you think you've examined since 2009? Oh, it's in the hundreds of not 1,000 or more. If not 1,000 or more. That should be an if. And again, there's an error. We're 11 minutes in, first error that I've noticed by the court clerk. Have you noticed at court about prior, or have you testified at court about prior examinations? Yes, sir. In those prior hearings, some of those, have you been declared as an expert? In some, yes, I have. I want to talk a little bit about cell phone forensics. Can you explain the process that you go through when you do a cell phone extraction? Yes. So in 2017, when this case was brought to us, the procedure was basically you get the phone in, you do a manual examination to kind of see, what packaging it's in, what condition it's in, is the screen cracked, so on and so forth. So I have a digital camera that I document all those things. You open up the settings, you take pictures of the serial number, the name of the accounts, the screens. You take a digital picture of the screens, what applications are on the phone, all that. That's the first line. And then the second part of that is picking a software to try to extract the data. So extracting the data using one of the commercial tools that I talked about. And then at that point, you take the data and then you put it in another software to process. And so you have all this technology, the digital, things that you get off the device, and then you process it with this software. And then from there, you process it from a report from a readable format so the investigators and the prosecutors can read what is on that phone. I want to break that down a little bit more. You were talking really fast, and so I want to make sure I understand. The first thing you do when you get a phone for an extraction is that you examine the outside of the phone? Yes, sir. And when I say examine the outside, what do you do to examine the outside of the phone? You take pictures of the packaging, the phone, the case that's on it. You remove the case, you take pictures of all the things, including the settings and serial numbers and all the types of things. So you not only take a picture of the outside of the phone, meaning the phone outside the case, you also remove the SIM card and take a picture of that? Yes, sir. Then do you turn on the phone and open the screen of the phone and take pictures of what you see on the screen? Yes, sir. And while you're doing that, do you open different applications within the phone? It just depends. It depends on what is needed for the case. In this case, I believe there is a Snapchat application on there, so I was able to open up the Snapchat and take a screenshot. We'll get to that part, but okay. In the typical forensics examination, do you tend to open apps that are on the phone and take a look at those apps? Yes. And then do you photograph what you see? Yes. After you've done the physical examination and taken those photographs, what is the next step that you do? So you find the piece of software that you need to extract that data off, and then you plug the phone into a computer with that software, and you basically download that information of that phone. How do you know what software to use of that phone? Well, different softwares support different phones. Not one piece of software supports everything, and so it just depends on the make, the model, the version of software that's on the phone could be a factor, and so it depends really. So you take a look at the phone, depending on what kind of phone it is, if it's an iPhone, and then you'll determine what program would best work on the phone to extract the data? Yes, sir. Okay. Then you plug the phone into your computer. Yes, sir. You use the next program to extract the data? Yes, sir. And when you extract the data, what do you get? Well, you get an exact copy of everything that's on that phone that's supported for the extraction of that device. And with that raw data, what do you do? So you take that raw data, and then that's where you put it in another program to process that information, and that's where it deciphers the information to understand what the contacts are or the text messages, the calls, the pictures, the videos, all that type of thing. This raw data, my understanding is the raw data is in basically computer format where it's ones and zeros. Is that fair? Yes, sir. So it's in code. And something that can't be read by someone like me that's looking at it. Yes, sir. And so it's necessary for you to put that raw data into a program that deciphers it and makes it readable to someone who can't read ones and zeros. Yes, sir. Once you do that, the information that's produced, what do you do with that information? Once it's deciphered in that program, then you create a report. And when you create a report, there's, basically four different ways that we can produce reports in different formats. So, a PDF report that people can read, an Excel spreadsheet that people can read as far as the messages and so on and so forth. It's called an HTML file, which is basically a web browser file. It doesn't use the internet, but it uses a web browser like Edge or Outlook or Edge or Safari or a web browser to look at it. And then the fourth type is basically it's a called a portable case, where it's like a small little program that the investigator can install in their computer that can read the data in electronic form, kind of like what I see in the electronic form on that process, Cellbrite extraction. I want to talk about some of the data that you're able to retrieve from phones when you go through this process. Are you able to retrieve text messages? Yes, sir. What about photos? Yes, sir. What about videos? Yes, sir. What about activity within the app on the phone? Apps on the phone? Possibly? Yes. Okay, and all this information is put into that report that you're talking about? Yes. I want to take you back to 2017. What position were you in at the time? I was a fully trained digital forensic examiner, sergeant by rank, but practicing digital forensics, working cases day to day. And where were you stationed? Out in the Indianapolis office. And is that out of the cybercrime unit in Indianapolis? Yes, sir. And at some point, did you become involved in the investigation into the homicides of Abby and Libby? Yes. Can you tell me how you became involved? We were contacted that investigators found a phone that they believed was part of the investigation, and so that phone was relayed down to Indianapolis at my office on February 15th of 2017 by Trooper Larry Moat. Once he once he brought the phone down, then I hold on, let me ask you a few questions in there. Okay, okay. You're getting ahead of me. You kind of answered my next question. When did you get the phone? It was February 15th of 2017, so the day after the girls were found. And when you first received the phone, what did you do? Like I mentioned before, I did that manual examination of taking digital photographs of the phone, the condition, the packaging, and so forth. I'm going to show you what's been marked as States Exhibit 186 through 199. I want you to take a look at those photos for a moment. Trooper Bunner, did you get an opportunity to look at those photos? I did. And are those photos you took? Yes. And are those photos that you took while doing the physical examination of the phone that was brought to you by Trooper Moat? Yes, sir. Judge, the state would move what's been marked as State's Exhibit. Let me look at the numbers one more time, 186 through 199. Ms. Auger has no objection. Court says all right without objection. They're admitted. Mr. McClellan says, Judge, I would ask permission to publish those pictures. I've stapled them in the packet for ease to the jury. You may. And they are. Sergeant Bunner, I'd like to go through the photos and describe to the jury what the pictures are of and what you're doing as you're taking the pictures. So the first picture that we come to, explain to the jury what that is a picture of. So the picture is just a manila envelope. This is the packaging that the phone was inside. And now I want to go to State's Exhibit 187. This is a copy of the PR&R, the property record and receipt for Indiana State Police. That's how we keep chain of custody. I just took a picture of it as it was brought to me. And is that typical that you would take a picture of that? Yes. I'm going to show you what's been marked as States 188 and 189. Put them together. Can you describe what those are? Those are the pictures of the front and back of the phone that I examined with the. And are those pictures that you took after it was taken out of the package? Yes. Okay, I'm going to show you pictures of 190 and 191. Can you describe what those are? 190 is a picture with the case removed, the back side of the phone. And then the 191 is the close-up of the back side of the phone. And I do that so that you see the model number and the identifiers on the back of it. And what kind of phone is this that you're examining? It's an Apple iPhone 6S. I'm going to show you what's been marked as States Exhibit 192. Can you tell me what that is? This is a copy of or a picture of the SIM card tray and the SIM card that was removed from the item that I examined. So as part of your physical examination, you not only photographed the outside of the phone, but you take the SIM card out and photograph that as well? Yes, sir. Why do you do that? It shows basically that what kind of carrier it was. So in this instance, it was an AT&T SIM card, and then it has the SIM card number etched in the top of the card. And so by seeing the name AT&T on that SIM card, does that tell you which carrier would be the provider for that phone? Yes, sir. And so in this case, who is it? AT&T. I'm going to show you what's been marked as States Exhibits 193 and 194. Can you describe to the jury what those are? 193 is a picture of the screen lock to show that it was locked. It was a locked phone or it had a lock code on it. And then 194 is a picture of it unlocked at the home page. Now, I want to back up a little. When you got the phone, was the phone powered on? It was not. So the phone was powered off at that time. How did you get the phone to power on? I plugged it into the charger and charging the phone. So the battery's dead on the phone when you got it? Yes, sir. Okay. And you plugged it in? Yes, sir. When the phone came on, is that lock screen the first thing that popped up? Yes, sir. Did you have the code to the phone to be able to get into it? Yes, we had been provided with it. And so you punch the code into the phone, and then States Exhibit 194 is that the screen that you saw when you opened the phone? Yes, sir. is that did you manipulate the phone in any way before you opened it? No. Meaning you didn't delete phone calls, you didn't delete messages, you didn't do anything to the phone prior to punching in the code, opening the phone. No. And so that phone, States Exhibit 194, is that a true and accurate copy of what you saw on the phone when you opened it? Yes, sir. Okay. After that, did you then continue on with your physical examination? Yes. And did that entail opening the settings and different app within the phone to see what information you could gather? Yes, sir. So I want to go through these. I want to show you what's been marked as States Exhibit 195. Can you tell the jury what that is? That is in the settings portion under the general settings where it has the name of the phone. By default, the phone is just named iPhone. In this instance, it's been edited to be named LG's iPhone or Libby German's iPhone. I want to show you what's been marked as States 196. Can you tell the jury what that is? That is a picture of the settings of the iCloud. Each iPhone has an iCloud associated with it, an iCloud account, and this is the name on the iCloud account, which it names Libby or Libby German at iCloud.com. I'm going to show you what's been marked as States Exhibit 197. Can you tell the jury what that is? This is another screenshot of the Apple ID that's been associated with the iPhone, and it's mirrored towards the iTunes and App Store. You have to have an Apple ID in order to purchase an app or download an app. So the LG iCloud is the account that was used to do that. I'm going to show you what's been marked as States Exhibit 198. Can you tell the jury what that is? So I took a screenshot or a digital picture of the settings, particularly in the iMessage settings, where on iPhones they have regular text messages, but they also have iMessage as a feature. And so an iMessage can be attached to an Apple ID. It can be attached to a phone number. In this case, both were checkmarked, the phone number and the Apple ID. Libby, Libby German at iCloud.com was used for iMessage. And then finally, States Exhibit 199. Can you tell the jury what that is? So it says settings. This is a screenshot or a digital pic of in the Snapchat menu settings, where it shows the name is Liberty German and the username is Liberty German with a birth date or date of birth and mobile phone number. And that is within the Snapchat application? Yes, sir. Okay, Sergeant Bunner. He's a lieutenant. He's called him Sergeant, Trooper. I'm sure Trooper is appropriate, but he is a lieutenant, so Sergeant is not. Okay, Sergeant Bunner, I'm going to show you, this is out of a sequence numbering wise. I'm going to show you now what's marked as States Exhibit 206. Can you just identify what that is? So this is a digital photo in the Setting General app where I took a picture of, well, wait, let me stop you. Did you take that photo? Yes, sir. And was that part of your physical examination of the phone? Yes, sir. And specifically, was that part of your examination when you're looking in the phone and gathering information once the phone is opened, meaning once the passcode is punched in and you're looking at the screen? Yes, sir. All right. Judge, the state would move to admit what's been marked as 206. No objection. All right. Admitted. Um, okay. Then she says no objection again. Sorry. I don't know what. I'm confused. I don't know why she said it twice. Anyways, Ms. Auger says no objection. Mr. McLeland says, Judge, the state would move to, sorry, we've already done that. I'm sorry. Can you now, this has been admitted, and I realize it's out of sequence. I realize it wasn't in the group of pictures that I handed you before. Can you explain to the jury what State's Exhibit 206 is? So it's a digital photo I took of the settings in the general app, but basically it shows the time zone that the phone is set in, and then which is America, Indianapolis, which is commonly known as Eastern Time Zone. And it's checked or the box is set for to set automatically. And that means that basically the phone will receive and set automatically so that specific time zone according to the cell phone towers. Can you tell me a little bit how that works, the cell phone towers, and how do they get the time to make sure it's accurate? So the carriers, in this case AT&T, sets a date and time, and that is synced to phones that are set automatically with the date and time, and that's set for that particular phone. And you took this picture in 2017? Yes, sir. And it was on Eastern Time? Yes, sir. Are we on Eastern Time yet today? Yes, sir. And are we Eastern Time in this geographical location? Yes, sir. And so the time that was on the phone that was set to that phone should be the time that we are here currently today. Yes, sir. Okay. After you did the physical examination of this iPhone 6S, what did you do next? At that point, since you've taken the digital photos and documented that part of it, you move on to the next phase, which is to extract the data off of the phone. And how did you do that in this case? So in this case, I use Cellbrite. It's a commercial program that we purchase a license and it supports a lot of phones around the world. And so I use that to extract the data off the phone. Cellbrite is a pattern that you've purchased, a program that you've purchased, you said. And how often have you used Cellbrite? So the state police specifically purchases it, the licenses for it, but in 2017, we were using Cellbrite on a daily basis to work cases. Law enforcement is, I believe, Cellbrite's probably number one client. So it doesn't surprise me that Cellbrite, wanting to cater to their number one client, or one of their number one clients, I should say, in the Karen Reed case, they caved and removed the house long to die in cold timestamp to cater to their law enforcement DA buddies that do the majority of the business with Cellbrite. So I think that's a problem when you have businesses kind of in cahoots with one another and you're using that for testimony to put people away or take people's rights away. It's a problem, in my opinion. Anyways, so they use Cellbrite on a daily basis. And is it a program that you were familiar with? Yes, sir. Oh, another thing I wanted to say before I moved on was that you don't just use one, or you shouldn't just rely on one, because not all tools are the same. So you should be doing extractions with multiple tools to make sure that you're not missing things or to fill in gaps where you have gaps. Some things like Cellbrite timestamps were completely altered, and now you're not going to have timestamps on certain things. So maybe you might want to use Axiom or other programs to try to see if there were things that were missed. Just a suggestion to all law enforcement out there. All right. So is it a program that you had used several times in various phone extractions prior to this? Yes, sir. And tell me the kind of information that Cellbrite will gather from or extract from the phone. So it depends on what make and model of the phone, what version of software it is, and in what Cellbrite, what other forensic programs support. But in this case, the Cellbrite was able to extract the contacts, the messages, the phone calls, the voicemails, the internet history, the pictures and videos, so on and so forth. So, and is there, I guess I'll just ask you, is there commonly referred to as a method one technique? For this iPhone extraction, it was a method one extraction of that device. Do you know why it's called a method one extraction? I do not. That's just the way that Cellbrite named that extraction method. How is it different than other extraction methods, if you know? So with iPhones, you have a method 1. Later they come up with a method 2, method 3. But with iPhones are a little bit different cuz you hook it up to your computer. With Androids at the time we had a little tablet box, if you will. It's a cell bright that you would plug in the Android phones into and extract the data. Oh, so there's a device that you would plug your phone into versus for Androids versus iPhones, you plug it specifically into your computer, is what he's saying there. On February 15th of 2017, is the method 1 extraction the only capability that you had on this type of phone? For the Cellbrite program, yes. For the Cellbrite program, did you run the program or phone through any did you run the phone through the Cellbrite program? Yes. And what product did you get? So I received the extraction, the data that whatever it could support off of that phone. And did you look at the data that you were able to extract from that phone? Yes. Once I put that in the Cellbrite program to analyze it, I could see where it's deciphered all the phone calls, the messages, the pictures, videos, and so on and so forth. Is the Cellbrite report, you were able to look at the Cellbrite report that was produced? Yes, sir. Was that report several hundred pages long? Yes, sir. Did you go through each page of that report individually? No. Well, what did you do? So typically, there's a ton of information that's brought off the phone. We take that and we put it into a report form, and then we report that or give that to the detectives that's working the case so that hopefully they can further their case, their investigation. And is that what you did here? Yes, sir. Now, why didn't you take the time after you extracted the information to go through that report? If we went through every single database, it would probably take weeks, if not months or years, to go through every single phone line by line. Well, maybe you should do a thorough job though. So did you have time to do that on February 15th? On February 15th of 2017, this was the day after they found the victims, to my understanding of limited knowledge of the case. And so time was of the essence. So we wanted to get the information off that phone and into the hands of the investigators as soon as possible. And in fact, while you did the extraction, did Trooper Moat sit and wait on you to get it done? He did. And so Trooper Moat was there to rush the information back to the investigators as soon as you were done? Yes, sir. Did you look at any of the data before you handed the information back over to Trooper Moat? I looked at a little bit of the data, yes. Well, tell me what kind of data you looked at. So typically, when you extract data off of phones, there's easily seen information, and part of that is the last user activity, basically, and that's probably important for the case. I'm assuming, being the district detective prior to that, looking at the day prior, or the day or two before, that may deem some valuable information off the phone, and so that's what I did. I want to remind you here that Libby was talking to the Keegan Klein or oh my gosh, I'm blanking right now on what his screen name was. Anthony Schatz. Anthony Schatz was the screen name, and Keegan Klein was the person who was behind that account and was definitely not a teen child Libby's age. And he was later arrested for other things with minor girls. Hey guys, sorry, I just had a pet bathroom emergency, so I don't know where I left off. Apologies. So I'm going to back up to this question here because I don't know where I left off and I don't want to miss something. So, did you look at any of the data before you handed the information back over to Trooper Moat? I looked at a little bit of the data, yes. Well, tell me what kind of data you looked at. So, typically, when we extract data off of phones, there's easily seen information. I did read this, sorry. And part of that is the last user activity, basically. And that's probably important for the case. I'm assuming you know, being the district detective prior to, that looking at the prior day or 2 days before, that may deem some valuable information off of the phone. And so that's what I did. Okay, so that is where I left off, and then I was talking, sorry, about the that's why I was distracted. So I was talking about the Anthony Shots profile and the Keegan Klein individual who is now housed in the House or Department of Corrections. Keegan Klein, who it was I want to say like just a couple weeks after Libby and Abby's homicides that he was caught trying to solicit some something from some minor girls and trying to get some minor girls to like come meet him somewhere or something. We know that Libby was talking to this Anthony Shots account and that day, the day of the homicides, but it's kind of glossed over and we don't get to know much more about that for some reason. I think it's kind of an important key here, and I really do think that there is an element of SA in this. We do know that there was DNA from unknown individuals on both of the girls and their clothings and their private areas. So I definitely do believe that there was some element of SA involved, and I think that that Anthony Shots account may have something to do with it. I think there may have been some kind of child uh rhymes with sing um ch- corn sing rhymes with corn sing child corn sing, if you know what I'm saying. I think there was a lot of essay elements involved. C scam or whatever you C S whatever. You know what I'm saying? I can't think right now. I'm so distracted. I'm sorry. Um but there is that element, I think. And that Anthony Shots is, I think, a big key to this, and we're gonna see if they even bring it up. 'Cause I don't even know if that was really dug into at trial. So let's see what they say. CSAM is what I meant. So child essay material. I think there was something going on along those lines in this part of town. And these individuals, Ron Logan, Kagan Klein, may have been involved. Definitely Kagan Klein. Possibly Ron Logan, too. Anyways, let's continue. I guess, let's break it down to the nuts and bolts of this. Did you look at the camera roll on the phone? I did. And the camera roll is what? Excuse me. The camera roll is the application that stores the photos and videos on an iPhone specifically. And why did you look at that specific section or data from the phone? I noticed that. No, why did you do that? Why did I do that? Yes, because that's in the timeline feature of the Cellbrite report that showed a video was taken in the last day or two of that phone activity. And is it fair to say that could be important evidence in an investigation? Yes, sir. The last photos, videos, the last things on that camera roll could be important pieces of evidence for any investigation? Yes, sir. Objection, leaning. Sustained. Why is it that you went to that section on the phone first? Well, that was the last user activity on the timeline report. Were you able to see the last photos and videos taken with that phone? Yes, sir. And what did you find? I found a video was taken at On 2/13, the day of the abduction of 2017, Mr. McLeland says, Judge, the parties have stipulated to the video that Sergeant Bunner found on the phone. I'd ask the court permission to play the video now. The court says, what is the exhibit number? It's I'm sorry, Judge. I'm trying to plug my phone in. I can't find the charger. Hold on one second. Sorry. Um McClellan asks the court to permission to play the video now, and asks the identification number or exhibit number. He says, I'm sorry, Judge. States Exhibit 200. I apologize, Judge. I got ahead of myself. She says, that's all right. So without objection and by argument or agreements of the parties, States 200 is admitted and published. Did she ask for no objection? Because I didn't hear them say no objection, but okay. Maybe it was a stipulated to or something or agreed upon earlier. I don't know. Sergeant Bunner, excuse me, I feel like I've got a frog in my throat. I have to keep clearing it. It's not pleasant for you guys. Hold on. Sorry. Okay, Sergeant Bunner, does this video have sound? It does. And I'm going to play the video now. And it played. This was, I believe, the Bridge Guy video, the video that they found on Libby's phone that day. Sergeant, is that the video that you saw on iPhone 6 that you were examining? Yes, sir. And at this point, when you examined the video, did you know anything about the investigation? I know there's two girls that were possibly killed, and that's about all I knew about the investigation. Were you able to examine the timestamp that was on the video? I was. And what did you find? It was taken at 2:13 p.m. And on what date? 2/13 of 2017. And how do timestamps on videos work? How does a video get a timestamp of when it was taken? It usually deems that from the data and time that's set on the phone. Well, would that be a correlation with the other exhibit that we examined, stating that the phone was on certain time standard? Like Eastern time? Yes, sir. Okay. When you do an extraction, a cell phone extraction, does it give you a true and accurate copy of the information that's on the phone? Yes, sir. And so, would this video have been a true and accurate transfer from what was on the phone? Yes, sir. Once you viewed the video, what did you do with the video next? I basically sent that with Trooper Larry Moat with the reports to the investigators. I also was able to send a copy to Sergeant Jerry Chapman. He's our next witness, by the way, who's a state police digital forensics examiner who's been trained in audio video enhancements. What? Audio video enhancements? Did he enhance the video at some point? Yes, yes, I think he may have, in order to make Bridge Guy seem shorter. Because we've seen now that the trial's over, we've seen pictures side by side with the actual video, and the picture, the image that they sent out of Bridge Guy originally to make us all think this is our guy. I think they shrunk him to make him look smaller. I think they did something to alter the image because when you put them side by side, their physical appearances are not the same. So just FYI on that. I wonder if I have. Hold on. Let me see if I have an X post on this. I think I did an X post. All right. I found a couple of things that I want to show you guys. Sorry, we're taking a teeny little break from the transcript, but first I want to show you the actual Bridge Guy video that they are watching in court right now, or just watched, I guess we should say, and they're talking about. So let's watch that. It is 43 seconds, so it's not long. We might watch it a couple times. So here, let's begin.
See, this is the path that we go down. There's no path going there, so we have to go down here. Hi.
Okay, so that is it. I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna play it for you one more time without any interruptions, and then we'll discuss. Okay. So you might want to put headphones in if you have them and turn it up because I have it up. I have volume up pretty high. So let's see here. Make sure that's up. Yep. Okay. And you will hear at the end the guys down the hill. Um, but listen to what the girls are saying and try to decipher that because that's going to come out in testimony from the state. What they think they hear and what you actually hear with your own ears might be different. Just saying.
See, this is the path that we go down. There's no path going there, so we have to go down here. Hi.
Okay. One more time. And we're going to pause it along the way. So, first of all, we see nothing but the tracks. Okay. And now Libby panned up, or whoever is using this phone, taking this video footage, we see because there are suspicions that there may have been another female with them, and it also kind of sounds like there's one if you listen very closely. That might be whispering or talking to Libby, or Libby might be talking to them, or maybe Libby was just talking to herself. I don't know, but it does kind of sound like there might be, and that's something I'm not saying that there was or wasn't, but that is something that has been going on out there, in the internet world. So okay, we first time the camera pans up, we see Abby at the very tail end of the Monenhigh Bridge, and she's got her hands. As you can see, we talked about her clothing in the last episode. Brian Olahy went over all of their clothing and everything that they found. So Abby was wearing Converse shoes, blue jeans, this pink tank top, and a gray sweatshirt. So the pink tank top was on her. The gray sweatshirt was in the creek, and I believe it may or may not have been her pants. I'm not sure. There's some inconsistencies in that. I think she might have been wearing Libby's pants, but she was in her shoes, so it's odd. So then they'd have to change her pants and put her shoes back on. I don't know. Not really sure about the pants, but we have for certain that she was in the pink tank top and the Delphi swim sweatshirt that Libby brought from Kelsey's car. Okay, let's continue. So Abby is walking at the end of the bridge. She's got her hands in her pockets and they're not really saying much. Libby's still panning the phone around. You can see right. Let me back up a couple seconds. So that is how far away Bridge Guy, that is Bridge Guy, the Bridge Guy that everybody has famously called him. You can see how far away he is. He's not that far, but a few feet. Um, and you only see him for a split second because the camera is rolling around. But you do get some bits of video of him. And then Okay, now I'll let it play a little bit. So you see how far away he is.
See, this is the path that we go down.
It sounds like, see, this is the path. She takes a pause and then kind of says more under her breath that we go down. That's what I hear. Um, that's not what law enforcement says, she says. They say that be a gun, which that's not even English. Nobody talks like that. So that's just ridiculous. I don't think that that's what she says.
That we go down.
Let's try.
Path.
Let's go back a little further.
Path that we go down. See, this is the path that we go down.
And then I hear Abby say, "This is the path," like kind of parroting Libby there.
There's no path going there, so we have to go down here.
There's no path going there, so we have to go down here.
Hi.
That was the guys down the hill. You hear as he approaches them, I hear one of the girls go, "Huh?" Like kind of like he startled them, and almost to me, that's kind of what it seems like. So let's listen to that again.
Hi.
All right. So that's it. That's the 43 seconds of video that they obtained from Libby's phone that day. This Brian Bunner got from Libby's phone. Quickly, I want to show you this was a post from Sleuthy Goosey on X. And what we were just talking about, which made me look for all these things, was this guy, Sergeant Jerry Chapman, our next witness, who's the state police digital forensic examiner who's been trained. He's been trained in audio video enhancements. Take a look at this. This is a screenshot captured straight from the video. This is what they released to the public. It almost looks like it was dehanced, if you know what I mean. Like it was stretched out, shortened, like made blurrier almost to not seem like it is the person that it may be. What do you guys think? Law enforcement released this image. This is a straight up screenshot from the video itself. Interesting, right? One more little interesting piece before we move back to the transcript. This was the post that I was thinking about that I did. And this is a picture of Ron Logan, obviously, side by side with Bridge Guy. So that's Ron Logan in black and white next to Bridge Guy. If you ask me, their bodies are nearly identical. Nearly identical. And it's not just the way that they are standing, it's the way that their body moves, the way, that's their gait. This is him in the middle of a step. So this would be very consistent with him walking in either, with his hands in his pocket or outside of his pocket. The characteristics, his shoulder slants, things like that, um, are going to be similar. So I think that I just think that this picture is really powerful to me, that this is not Richard Allen and most likely, possibly, probably Ron Logan. He's not here to defend himself or do time for his crimes, unfortunately. So it is what it is. We can talk about him and there's no defamation, right? Allegedly. Allegedly, he did these things. Ron Logan, if you don't recall, is the landowner where the girls' bodies were found. He made up an alibi. He lied about his alibi. He asked people to lie for him about his alibi. There's some strange things about him, and the FBI also thought he was a good suspect for these crimes. And whatever happened after that, I don't know. He was searched, his property was searched, and then Delphi and Indiana State Police were like, FBI, you need to go. And they did, which makes no sense to me, which makes me wonder if the FBI are in on it. So I don't know. I'm just paranoid now about everybody. But let's move on. So he continues on and says, I also sent that to our fusion center and my boss, Chuck Cohen, Captain Chuck Cohen at the time. Did you attempt to enhance the video in any way? I did not. Did you do anything else to examine the video, take pictures of it, anything like that? I took screenshots. And how did you take those screenshots? When I play a video, we play it outside the forensic software, and I played it in, it's called a VLC player. It's a free player that you can download on the internet, I'm assuming. And we use that player because it plays a lot of different file types, codecs. And so I was able to play the video on the VLC player, pause it, and then take screenshots, if you will. I'm going to show you what's been marked as States Exhibit 201 through 205. Can you review those, please? Sergeant, have you had an opportunity to go through those photos? Yes, sir. And did you take those photos? Yes, I did. And what are those photos? These are the videos played but paused to take a screenshot with the VLC player to take a snippet, basically a still photo as you see here. And those are photos you took? Yes, sir. So he's trying to call or play off that screenshot that I just showed you, this bottom picture, as just a straight up screenshot, I guess. And no alterations, no enhancements. These are the these, sorry, I don't know what question I was on. And what are these videos? These are the videos played, but paused to take a screenshot and a snippet, basically, of a still photo, as you can see here. And those are photos you took? Yes, sir. Judge, state would move to admit what's been marked as State's Exhibit 201 through 205. No objection. They are admitted. And Judge, the state would ask permission to publish those to the jury at this time. You may, she says. Sergeant Bunner, when you do the screenshots, do you do them in chronological order as the video plays? Yes. And I want to explain something to the jury. As you look through that packet, the packet is exhibits 201 through 20. That is the last number. The court says 205. 205, thank you. Those are not chronological order, are they? No, I guess they're not. And that's so what picture is really first in the video? It's probably 205. And so inadvertently, when I handed you the packet, it looks like I put the first picture last. Is that fair? Yeah. And so really, it should go 205, then back to 201, and then through the process? Yes. And in picture 205, can you see a man behind Abby Williams? No. In the pictures following that, you can. Is that correct? Yes, sir. After you gave the phone and the information back to Trooper Moat, did you examine the phone again on a later date? I did. Can you tell me about that? The phone was brought back to me on February 21st of 2017. Well, let me stop you there. Why was it brought back to you on that day? So a few days later, he 6 days later, he was reviewing it on the 15th. Now it comes back to him again on the 21st. I don't know why it was brought back that day, but that was the day that it was brought to us, and there was other phones that we examined at that point too. Once you got the phone on February 21st, what did you do with it then? So, knowing that this was an ongoing case, that the first time that I examined it, we did it quickly, and I wanted the phone back so I could use every tool that I had in my tool belt in our forensic arsenal to try to get more data off the phone. And did you do that? Yes, I used everything that I could to get data off that phone. Why didn't you do it in the first place? You should have used multiple tools. Did you? What other programs did you use to get additional data off or to re examine the phone? So, in totality, I used a program called Lantern, a program called Backlight, a program called Elcrum Soft. That's difficult to say. Magnet Axiom, Magnet Acquire. We tried to do an iTunes backup. We did an iTunes cloud extraction. We tried to do as much as we could to try to get as much information off that phone or off that Apple ID to further the case. What did you do with that information after you gathered it? Well, we try to give that over to the investigators if it was relevant, but there was really nothing that was in addition to what we found already through the Celebrite extraction from the initial extraction. So this additional or second extraction that you did, your testimony is that it didn't produce anything new from that first extraction? No, sir. Did you get the phone back a third time? Yes, I did. Tell me about that. So in the fall of 2017, on September 5th, I received the phone back again. At that point, Cellbrite had released a method 2 extraction, and then I had learned that there's a new method 3 extraction as well. Why do you keep extracting the same phone? Why do you do that? Why don't you just take the first extraction, give it to the investigators, and move on? So, there's different levels of extraction in cell phone forensics without getting too deep into the woods. But basically, you have logical extraction, which is a basic extraction. You advanced logical, which is a little bit your advanced logical, I'm assuming that's supposed to be. Um, you have a file system, you have a full file system, and then you have a physical extraction. So each level gains more information of the phone. And is it safe to say that technology continues to develop month after month, year after year? Yes. And so, why is it important to re examine phones as technology develops? Because there's new capabilities and new information and more information that we can gather off the phone as time and technology improves. When you did the method 2 extraction, did you gather anything new in addition to the method 1 extraction that you did in on February 15th? There was some new information, but it was minimal, nothing that was relevant to the case. Well, how do you know if it's relevant to the case? To get the three method to get the method 3 extraction, that is beyond the state police's capabilities. Oh, sorry. The next question was, what did you do with the phone after that? To get the method 3 extraction, that was beyond the state's capabilities. So we reached out to the federal partners at Homeland Security, and I was able to ship the phone to Washington, D.C. for their lab to extract the method 3 extraction from their phone. So they got the feds involved, perhaps. Did you get a report from the method 2 and method 3 extractions? So once we received I did the method 2 and we received the method 3 back. Then I created a report within, analyzing that data and then creating a report from that new additional data. A new report in addition to the one you created in February 15th? Yes, sir. Okay, after that, was the phone examined again? Yes, sir. When? In 2019. Who examined it in 2019? That was Sergeant Chris Cecil, who was a digital forensic examiner in the same office. Why was it examined in 2019? So at that point, we had received newer technology now, which is called Gray Shift, a product called Gray Key at the time, and it extracted even more data from iPhones at that point. Why didn't you do the extraction? Why was it given to Christopher Cecil? In late 2017, I was promoted to first sergeant, and so I was still in the digital forensics unit of cyber cybercrime. Hello, brain. Cybercrime unit at the time. Now, digital forensics, but I wasn't an active examiner doing day-to-day extractions. And so we wanted to make sure that we had one of our best examiners to do the phone because I had stepped down and started doing more admin duties. So we wanted to make sure it had the best person to do that exam that was practicing. Thank you, Judge. I don't have any other questions. Ms. Auger? She says, "Thank you, Judge, and we will begin cross examination with Ms. Auger of Lieutenant Bunner." Sergeant Bunner, you said that you sent off the phone for the method 3 after you did the method 2 extraction. Yes? Okay, but the method 2 extraction report was dated October 12th, 2017, correct? I'd have to look at it. Okay. And you sent off and had who did you have do the method 2? It was Homeland Sec, or you said method 2? Yes. It was myself. Or, I'm sorry, method 3. Method 3 is Homeland Security. Homeland Security? Uh-huh. No customs. Well, U.S. Customs and Homeland Security kind of merged, and it's kind of one agency. Okay, so the same thing to you? Yes. All right. And the method 3 extraction was done on September 5th of 2017, and he did the second extraction on October 12th. So after the extraction was done with Homeland Security. It was sent off, yes. Okay, and the report was dated September 5th, 2017, right? I would have to go back and fire up my computer if you want exact dates. Okay. Now, I want to show you. Now, you took pictures of the phone when you originally received it in order to kind of document the state that it was in and the manner in which you received it, and also for chain of custody purposes. Is that correct? Yes, ma'am. Okay. And I'm going to show you States Exhibit 160 or 186, and can you tell us what that is a photo of? I believe I already explained it before. This is a manila envelope that the phone was in when I received it in February. And it's just labeled with a post-it note, right? Yes. What kind of chain of custody is that? Is that how you normally label things with post-it notes for chain of custody? Judge, can we approach? Says Mr. McLeland. And the court says, yep, come on up. We have a sidebar. Mr. McLellan says the parties have stipulated to the chain of custody, so, and we've got our first inaudible. It took a while, but we got there. It was 1 hour, 13 minutes. We got our first inaudible. Court says, oh. Mr. McLellan says, so we're not confusing the jury that chain of custody is at issue. The court says, okay, well, why are you doing this? And whatever her reason was, we don't get to know because there's our second inaudible. Seems like they always come together in bunches, right? When certain topics come up that maybe they don't want in the record. I don't know. Just saying. The court says you've already stipulated to it. We stipulated to it, but well, part of the our whole case is that you stipulated to it? Yes, we did. Okay. She just cuts her off there. Ladies and gentlemen, the parties have stipulated to the chain of custody of the phone. Well, there goes that. Now, Cellbrite has different levels of certifications of people using it. Yes. And you're not certified in Cellbrite, right? State Police does not actively do vendor certifications. So that's a no. No. Now, The method one logical extraction you did on February 15th, that kind of gets the over the hood information. Is that fair in saying the what you can see you're using? If I have my phone and I push all the buttons and click on things, that's the information I can see, right? It's an advanced logical extraction. Uh-huh. And that's what you did on February 15th. Yes. He did not clear up anything up on that answer. Okay. And there are, is it logical, an advanced logical, a full file system, and then physical extraction, correct? There's different levels. Yes. And are those the different, four of the different levels? That's some of them, yes. Okay. And so a logical extraction is different than an advanced logical extraction, correct? It depends on what's supported, what's not within a certain iOS or phone or whatever. Okay. For iPhones in Cellbrite, a logical extraction is different from an advanced logical. It could be, yes. Okay. Sir, I'm going to show you what I've marked as Defendant's Exhibit M. Can you identify that? It's the front page of the PDF extraction report that I created or that I created for this case. And Cellbrite automatically generates it in that report, the type of extraction, correct? It does. You guys have probably all seen it. It almost looks like a spreadsheet. It's like a chart where you've got your columns and it'll say number, time, date, all that stuff, number called, if it was a text, a phone, phone call, whatever, and then they can sort it however they want. So they can do, what was deleted, like in the Karen Reed case, what was deleted, the house long to die in cold. So you can even have a column for that too. So there's a whole bunch of different columns and data sets that you can pull, and it comes out in almost like a chart or table form, and you can manipulate it to um, filter it in certain ways. So he gets a PDF extraction report, and Cellbrite automatically generates in that report the type of extraction, correct? It does. And what type of extraction does that say it was? It says logical method 1. Thank you. Mr. McClelland says no objection, Your Honor, to defendant's exhibit M. The court says, are you moving to admit? Ms. Auger says yes. Court says, all right, I'll show without objection M is admitted. Now you can also perform a full file extraction on an iOS 6S, on an iPhone 6S using Cellbrite, right? You can now, yes. Well, you could in 2017 too. No. No? No, there was only a method 1 extraction. Okay, but you did a full file system extraction in October of 2017, right? That would be the method 3. And is that a full file extraction, full file system extraction? To my understanding, yes. Okay, that you did in 2017 when you just said it wasn't available. That one? Not in February of 2017. Okay. Oh, it was available to other people, but you didn't have the capability yet? I don't know when the method 3 was available. And the method, well, why did you just testify that it wasn't? And the method 3 extraction gets all of the information, the under the hood stuff, right? That's not one program that gets every single bit of information. Or there's not one program that gets every bit of information. Well, okay, it gets the file system files, all of the data on the phone. You can't see if you're just looking at your phone, right? Correct. All right. And that includes things like when you turn the phone on, probably, yes. There's a power on log, right? Probably, yes. Okay, and there's a current power log that shows battery health, right? Possibly, yes. Okay. And there's a Knowledge C database that shows different types of what apps are on, when the screen is on, when it's off, kind of the whole life of the iPhone, right? In 2017, we did not know anything about a Knowledge C database. Okay. Well, there's a Knowledge C database included in your October 2017 extraction, right? It appears it is. Yes. Okay. You just didn't know about it then? We didn't know that the capabilities were there. And when we hit it with new updated software, then now that we know of the Knowledge C database existence and the Cellbrite programmers have programmed the software to read that information, now that we can see that in the method 3. And you had that information available to you as of October 2017, right? No. Okay. Now, was it available to you or did you just not see it? We did not know about Knowledge C database in 2017. Okay. So they didn't know about it. The knowledge was the data was available to them, but they couldn't interpret that data because they didn't know about it. Okay. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about the video on the phone. Actually, and you looked at the camera roll to get that video, right? Yes, ma'am. Okay. Do you recall what was on the camera roll from February 13th, 2017? I'm sure you'll refresh my memory. Okay, all right. Maybe I'm going to show you Defendant's Exhibit A, and that is the Monon High uh the Monon High bridge that's in the video. Is that right? It appears, yes. Okay. Was that photograph on Libby's camera roll? Not that I recall. So it's a photo of the high bridge. And he says this photo, not that he recalls, it was not on Libby's phone. And this is the photograph of Abby Williams on the Monon High Bridge. Yes. Sergeant Bunner, Sergeant, right? Lieutenant. That's like I've been saying, he's a lieutenant. She's like, I copied Nick. Nick, you were wrong. Lieutenant Bunner. It was in 2017, yes? Or he said it was in 2017, yes. So the photograph was in 2017. That's not really what she asked. She said, "Is this the photograph of Abby on the Monon High Bridge?" And his answer was, "It was in 2017, yes." Huh? That's okay. Well, I apologize, Lieutenant Bunner. When you look at the photographs and video, is there data associated with that you can see? Sometimes, yes, it does retain. Okay. And there was data associated with the video, is that correct? Yes, ma'am. And some of that data was longitude and latitude. Yes, ma'am. And Cellbrite has the ability to map that. Is that right? Yes. Did not know that. Okay. And did you actually map it? I did. Okay. And I want to show you Defendant's Exhibit N. Is that a map that shows where the longitude and latitude of the video associated with the video? Yes. And sir, could you circle, please, where the longitude and latitude was for the video? I've not been privy to that information as far as where the bridge and bodies and everything were found. Okay. And so I couldn't answer that question. All right. Well, but the longitude and latitude aren't anywhere near the bridge, right? So the video that was taken on the bridge and of the bridge, the longitude and latitude is not anywhere near the bridge. He says it is close within the vicinity. Yes. That showed up on your February 15th, I think she means 2017 extraction. So this coordinate, specific coordinate, is a coordinate in Delphi, Indiana. He's not answering the questions. She'll ask a question and he's not answering. He'll just say something else random. If you're paying attention, her questions and the things he says, he's not like giving. Some of the questions are like a yes or no, basically, and he's giving like out of context information. She asks, so this coordinate, specific coordinate, is a coordinate in Delphi, Indiana. Oh, wait. She asked, did that show up on your extraction? He says it's a coordinate in Indiana. I don't get it. Okay, moving on. And is that the coordinate that has the longitude and latitude? This coordinate? Yes. Okay, can you circle that for me? This one right here? Yes, sir. The witness indicates on the image or map. Okay, you can put your initials on there. Mr. McClellan says, Judge, I'm going to object. I guess, I'm not sure what the identification purposes of that are for when she's telling him where to circle and what to put on the picture. Ms. Auger says, it's an identifier as to the longitude and latitude coordinates of the video. The court says, I guess it would go to the weight the jury would give to. And Mr. McClellan says, that's fine, Judge, the exhibit. Can you just initial that for us, please? And the witness does. Thank you. Your Honor, can I go ahead and publish this, please? Perhaps we should admit it. Oh, admit it first. Thank you. Yes, move to admit defendant's exhibit N. No objection, Judge. All right, without objection, N is admitted. May I publish? You may. Thank you. Sergeant Bunner, did you point that information out to investigators? No. Okay. Did you have it pulled up on the map before you gave it back to Trooper Moat? No. I did not look at the GPS data in 2017. Okay. So okay. I don't know why you would skip that when you have the option of looking at that and you're trying to solve a double homicide of two young girls that has totally wrecked the town and you can't even look at the GPS data. I just don't understand this investigation whatsoever. Earlier, you talked about iMessaging and whether that's turned on the phone. Is that right? Yes. Okay. And when I'm talking about that, I'm going to show you State's Exhibit 195. Is that the photo you took? Yes. Is that how it looks? That's printed off of a landscape. You can print a picture out landscape or portrait, right? Oh, yes. Okay. And that's printed landscape? Yes. And so some of the information down here on the bottom was cut off? Yes. Okay. Did you take the photo that only included the top part of the screen, or is it just because it's the way that it's printed? I just took the top portion of the screen. So you omitted the bottom for some reason. Okay. And there's other information below that could be helpful, right? Yes. All right. And the same with Exhibit 196. Yes. 197. Yes. And 199. Yes. So these images that he's taking of the phone, he's only focusing on specific aspects when he takes the image and not capturing the whole screen. And potentially that additional information that he omitted could have been helpful to maybe the defense. Don't know. All right, so now iMessaging was enabled on Libby's phone. Is that correct? Yes. And iMessaging is a service my words may not be accurate, so just bear with me. It's a service provided by Apple so that if user A has an iPhone and user B has an iPhone, they can use that Apple messaging to send pretty secure messages. Judge, can I ask a few foundational questions? You may. Lieutenant Bunner, are you familiar with the operating systems that the Apple company uses? I am familiar with them, yes. Are you familiar with iMessaging and how it works? A limited capability, yes. Judge, I'm going to object to the question. I'm not sure he's in a position to be able to answer the technicalities of how iMessaging works from one phone to another. This is a very basic question, but okay. And so I'm going to object under speculation, Judge, as he doesn't have the foundational, I guess, knowledge to be able to answer the question. Ms. Auger says he has limited capability. If he doesn't know, he doesn't know, but he can answer. And the judge says, overruled. The witness says, what? And Ms. Auger says, I'm going to have to re-ask it, aren't I? Yep. What's the question? Okay, all right. So Apple has iMessaging. So if user A has an iPhone and user B has an iPhone, they can send iMessages, back and forth through the Apple server. Yes. Was that so freaking hard? Okay. And there are other capabilities associated with two users who have iPhones. Can you be more specific? Yes, I can. Find my iPhone. Yes. Okay. And so if user A has an iPhone and that's what do you say approved by user B so user B allows it, they can share their information or their locations and find their locations. Yes, that's my understanding. Okay. And Libby had Find My iPhone enabled on her iPhone 6S. You're asking or yeah, I don't know. I'd have to specifically research that. Okay, sure. I'm going to show you Defendant's Exhibit M, and you'll probably want to look at that last three lines. Yes, it appears that Find My iPhone was enabled on this phone. Your Honor, may I publish Defendant's Exhibit M? Do you have copies for the jury? I don't. I can make. Well, why don't we make copies? There's a lot of information for. Okay. It'll take an hour to pass that. Sure. If you know, is Find My iPhone an app that parents often use to kind of track their children? They can. Judge, I'm going to object to the question as speculation. Sustained. Sir, would you agree with me that every time you plug in the phone to do some kind of extraction or analysis, you are losing data? Judge, I'm going to object to the form of the question. Ms. Auger says, yeah. Sustained. That's a hard habit to break. I'm sorry. The would you agree with me? That's what she did. Would you agree with me? And McClellan doesn't like that. He objects every time. Is it true that when every time you plug the phone in to the computer to download, extract information, you lose some data from that phone? In 2024, yes, we know that's true. And it was true in 2017, right? We weren't sure that capabilities or not. Okay. So it was true. You just didn't know it to be true? True. Okay. And so when the phone was plugged in on February 15th, some data was lost? Not necessarily. Didn't you just say that it was every time? Is it true that every time you plug the phone into the computer, you lose data? He says, yes. And then, okay, so when the phone was plugged in on February 15th, some data was lost? Not necessarily. He just said every time, and now he's saying not necessarily. So, oh, I'm having trouble with my highlighter. Get out of here. He says not necessarily. So something's not adding up with his answers. He's got some inconsistencies here. Okay. What about the power off log? That just logs the last power off, right? We know that now in 2024, and there is a log. Yes. Okay, and let me be clear. I understand you may not have known it, but that doesn't mean it didn't happen, right? True. Okay, and so when it's powered off then on February 15th of 2017, we lost some data? Possibly, yes. And then when you got it again on February 21st, you lost some more data? Yes. And part of that is things are overwritten, and part of that is data kind of falls off over time? Sure. Plus, every time it updates in the network, so if you just have it on, I mean, anytime there's an update of any kind of app or anything, things overwrite. So that's why you have to put it in a Faraday bag or whatever. So it's always going to be, unless you have it off in um, or an airplane mode in your uh, evidence locker or something, then it's going to be updating unless you have it in a safe, protected mode. There's always going to be some kind of update because it's going to connect to the network and update something, unless they disconnect it from the network or whatever, whatever it may be. They're going to have data loss, data overwritten, things like that. So I don't. They didn't even ask about a Faraday bag. So I don't know if it got into a Faraday bag or did they put it in airplane mode. I don't even think they asked that. Did they? I don't recall them asking that. I remember Brian Olahy testifying to picking up the phone and finding the phone, but I don't remember him talking about putting it in a Faraday or in airplane mode, which would protect the updates from happening and losing data. So, or if somebody, and I'm not saying that this happened, but if somebody had access to her iCloud or iPhone account or, her Apple account and could be manipulating her Apple phone data from a home computer while Libby's missing or something, that could also have been a possibility too. So that's another reason why you want to protect that data and put it in a Faraday bag, which again, I don't think they ever did. And um, okay, so yeah, so he's saying, or the point that she's getting across with this witness is that you're constantly losing data every time you plug it in, every time you turn it on, every time it updates to the network. You're going to lose, or data is going to be overwritten. Something's going to happen with that data. So you can't be sure that you have all of the data ever. All right, next question. And part of that is things are overwritten, and part of it is data kind of falls off over time. Sure. Okay. And so when September 5th, when Customs did their, or Homeland Security did their extraction thing, same thing. So again, the third time it's getting plugged into a computer and losing and updating and things like that. He admits yes. Okay. And then on October 11th, when you did another one, same thing? Sure. And then in 2019, when Chris Cecil did his extraction, some more data was lost and overwritten. Sure, that's at least 4 times it's been plugged into a computer, at least, that we know of. Yes. And that's data that you can never get back. Yes. And data that the jury will never know. Sure. And sir, I want to show you State's Exhibit 187. If I could just have a moment, Your Honor. Sure, thank you. Sir, when you say to that Find My Phone is enabled, that means it's on? Yes. Okay, nothing further. Thank you, sir. The witness says, Thank you, Mr. McLeland, says the court. Mr. McLeland says, Thank you, Judge, and we'll have some brief redirect of um, Ryan Bunner. Mr. McLeland starts out, Lieutenant Bunner, I apologize for calling you the wrong rank before. I was using sergeant, but Lieutenant Bunner, we talked about the different levels of certification. He's very nice to not correct him because I would have. um, maybe not, but he was very nice not to correct. He says, so we talked about the different levels of certification on Cellbrite and through ISP. The policy is that you don't get those certifications through Cellbrite. Is that your testimony? So each vendor, cell phone vendor, forensics vendors have their own certifications. We can choose to take those certifications or not. It doesn't negate the fact that we can go through the training and get trained in how to use that software. It's just I've been told by the vendors, objection hearsay, sustained. Well, you're getting ahead of me here, and you kind of answered the question. Okay. that I was going to ask next because you don't have the certification from Cellbrite. Does that equate that you're not trained on the program? No, not at all. Do you get training on how to use the program? Absolutely. Is your training different from the training that people get when they're certified? No. How do you know if you've never been through that training? And so the only difference is you don't have the paper saying that you're certified. Correct. Okay, so you have the same training. Yes. As of 2017, how many years have you worked with Cellbrite? About 8 years. Okay. And through those 8 years, you continued to get training on the capabilities and how to use the program. Is that fair? Yes. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about, and again, I'm couching this in 2017 because that's when the phone was first extracted, correct? Yes. Talked a little bit about photos and videos and GPS location in 2017. What can you tell me about the GPS location of a video taken on an iPhone at that time? So it's the data associated with GPS coordinates, the type of phone or camera that was taken, all that is called EXIF data. And that's attached to a picture of video, whatever. That's not seen by the naked eye, but can be seen by our forensic programs. And is the GPS location, I gotta go back. Not is. Was the GPS location on videos taken, was the GPS location on videos taken in 2017, was it common for those GPS locations to be accurate and within a reasonable area? The GPS location shows in Delphi, it's in Delphi. If I use an example, if you have a Find My iPhone app, if you want to, for instance, if I want to track my wife, I'll open up the Find My iPhone app and initially it'll show a big circle that says she is within this general area, but we don't know exactly the pinpoint accuracy of within a meter or a yard or a foot of where she is until maybe 30 seconds, a minute later. Maybe even 5 minutes later, will it hone in to pinpoint exactly where she's at. And so, is that the same, I want to say, methodology? Was that the same methodology that occurred with the GPS location of a video back in 2017? Yes. I mean, and so when you start a video, would the GPS location range be larger? Yes, it'd be larger. And what would happen as that video records? Eventually, that circle will get smaller and it'll get pinpoint accuracy depending on the cell phone towers and satellites and possibly Wi Fi or anything else that it uses to triangulate to figure out exactly the pinpoint accuracy of that phone. So, when it first started recording, you may have a map or a location or a large location. Yes. And as that video plays, what would happen? Eventually, if it's trying to figure out where that phone is, then it'll triangulate and that circle will get smaller and smaller and it'll have pinpoint accuracy eventually to where it is located. Does it give you that accuracy within a range? The initial one or the precise one? Both of them. So, according to Cellbrite and what information was gathered off, it said that it's in this area and it just picked a GPS location and said, this is the location. How do you know that it just picked a location and said, this is the location? How do you know that? What scientific basis do you have for that? What? Okay, so Cellbrite just chose a random location basically out of that large range, is what he's saying, which I think is like laughable. How can you say that? How do you know that? Okay, well, let's follow up on that. Specifically with the video, the GPS location that you were shown, do you know how accurate that is within a range? Prior to this, I mapped it out and it looks like a little over a mile away. Okay. To the area, it's a mile area. And so is the GPS coordinates that you were shown today, are those pinpoint accuracy? The ones that Ms. Auger showed it is within a general range, okay, of accuracy, yes. So the specific GPS location that may not be where the video was taken, but it's within a range of that GPS location. Is that what I'm hearing? Objection asked and answered. Sustained. When you plug in a phone or when you turn on a phone, let me back up. When you turn on a phone, your testimony was that there was data that is lost. So, constantly with cell phones, there's underlying things going on in the operating system behind the scenes that the user doesn't know about. And so the phone is constantly changing and moving things around and possibly deleting databases. It doesn't need any more. So, yes. Oh, deleting databases that it doesn't need anymore. So, yes. Do you know, this may be an unfair question, maybe a silly question. Is there any way to tell what data is lost? Not to my knowledge, no. Okay, I don't have any other questions, Judge. Ms. Auger, says the court. Ms. Auger says, yes, please. Recross Lieutenant Bunner. Lieutenant Bunner, yes, ma'am. In 2017, the only location data you had to provide investigators was on was the GPS coordinates on our exhibit. Is that correct? I believe there's other GPS locations within the phone. And you had those available to you in 2017? They were provided on the report. Yes. Okay. Do you mean GPS coordinates associated with other videos and pictures? Yes. Okay. Did you map those? No. Okay. You mapped the video from February 13th. Later on, yes. Okay. And in 2017, the only coordinates you had were those coordinates on Defendant's Exhibit N, correct? Yes. Later, in 2024, First Sergeant Cecil found additional coordinates. Is that right? Do you know? I can't speculate to what he found. Okay, all right. You haven't looked at any of his work? I have not looked at his reports. No. Okay, fair enough. Thank you very much. Thank you. The court says, does anybody on the jury have any questions for the lieutenant? Mr. McLeland says, Judge, while the bailiff's collecting those, I do have copies of State's Exhibit 206 to publish to the jury. I can do that afterwards, Judge, but I wanted to make sure the court was aware that we were able to get those copies done. The court says, all right, so you can go ahead and publish while we are talking. Court says, or McClellan says, okay. They published Exhibit 206. There is now a sidebar conference, and we're going to discuss jury questions for Lieutenant Brian Bunner. Court reads the first question and says, did you ever document or take a photograph of the lock screen before the phone was unlocked to show notifications on the phone since it was last accessed? That is an excellent, excellent question. I didn't even think about that. But yeah. And the other thing I would have thought to do was to pull up your tabs and see like what tabs you had open, what were the last things that were being used and conversations. You might have a conversation right there in front of you from somebody, so did they do those kinds of things? Mr. McClellan says, I don't have a problem with that question. The court's next question, or the court reads the next question that says, can you share what relevance the sticky note on Exhibit 186 represents? The date looks to be 2/17/2024. Can you elaborate on why the date doesn't reflect 2017? I mean, you guys stipulated to that. Mr. McLeland says, yeah. The court says, so. Ms. Auger says, well, I think you're right. The court says, you stipulated. Ms. Auger says, I understand. The court says, okay. Mr. McLeland says, I object, Judge. I think this is going to confuse the jury. It was, yeah. The court says, I mean, had you not stipulated, then yeah, you could have gone all over the place with that, but you were agreeing with that there was no issue with that chain of custody. Now you're questioning the chain of custody. Ms. Auger says, well, I'm questioning the investigation is what we're questioning. The court says, I know what you're doing. You're questioning the chain of custody on this specific exhibit that you'd already stipulated to. That's my issue. Over our objection, Ms. Auger says. And the court says, um, the next question, could the iPad associated with the same iCloud account have pulled the location of Memorial Park from the map exhibit? Wow. Why did the court say wow? Could the iPad associated with the same iCloud, this is what I was talking about. Uh, So if there was an iPad or other way for somebody to access the Apple, this Apple account, another iPhone, another iPad or something, um, could somebody from a different device be manipulating location data and things and whatnot? So I don't know why the court says, wow. That's a little interesting. McLeland says, I don't know if he can answer that. I don't know if he can. Did he look at the iPad? I think he did, says Miss Ajay. McLeland says he extracted it, but team inaudible is the one that looked at it. Yeah. Court says, okay, Mr. McLeland, you can do it if you know. That's fine. Or Mr. McLeland says, you can do it with the if you know. Court says, was there software in October 2017 that could take the method 3 knowledge C export to disseminate into a readable, usable, extracted report? Software person there. Now, she's commenting on all these questions, which I think is highly inappropriate. Mr. McClellan says, yeah, I'm fine with that question. The court says, I don't know what that means. Are you okay with that? Ms. Auger says, yeah. Court says, as of 2/15/17, were you aware of any deleted photos or videos? Mr. McLuhan says, that's a good one. We're good with that. Court says, do Snapchat photos save to a person's phone? It's also another good question. I don't know if this witness knows. Mr. McLuhan says, he probably can't answer that, but I'm okay with it. Ms. Auger says, if he knows. So, if you know? Yeah, I'm okay with that. Next question. In 2017, were there capabilities to filter or remove people from photos? This jury's thinking. By these questions, you can tell that they are thinking about this data being manipulated. I'm okay with that question, Judge, but I don't know. I mean, it's not relevant. No, at all. So no. Ms. Auger says, I think that I can see where someone could be trying to go there. Mr. McLellan says, we're not going to have any experts, Ms. Auger says, but I don't think that Mr. McLellan says, testify that you can do that. You're not going to have any experts testify to do that. Why not? Of course they had software. I mean, when did Photoshop come out? Long, long ago. We're talking about Photoshop in the Menendez trial in the 90s. And this is 2024, and I think it's pretty clear there's capabilities to cut people out of photos, but they don't want to talk about it. Okay. So he says, I don't know, it could confuse the jury, is my concern. We're not going to have anybody that testifies. Ms. Auger says, no, that's. Mr. McLuhan says that he could remove. The court says, okay. Yeah, no, that's fine. They're in rabbit holes. Yeah, they're in rabbit holes, says the court. I don't think so. I don't think so. But anyways, the court says, was the report from October 2017 from ISP or Homeland Security? I'm okay. This report here. Court says, I assume. Mr. McLuhan says, I'm okay with the question. The court says, is that the report? Ms. Auger says, yeah. Mr. McLuhan says, if we can clarify that it's the report. Ms. Auger says, well, that's not the report. Court says, it's not in defendant's M? No, it's not. Okay. Next question. Was the Knowledge C database, Ms. Auger says, but they do talk about it, produced by the Homeland Security? Mr. McClellan says, was the knowledge C? Court says, was the knowledge C data? I can't even keep up with this conversation right now. Was the knowledge C database produced by Homeland Security? Ms. Auger says, if he knows. McClellan says, I'm fine with that question. I'm surprised that, well, there's a lot of inappropriate, I think, personal feelings here. I'm surprised, or this jury's in rabbit holes. The court says, okay, three more. What information is on the Knowledge C database? Mr. McClellan says that's a good one. Court says, what was the February 13th time when the longitude and latitude was taken on the picture of Libby on the bridge? Ms. Auger says, yeah. Mr. McClellan says, they mean video, maybe. I assume they mean video instead of picture. The court says, well, no, because that was her picture, so they're talking about the picture. Ms. Auger says, yeah. Oh, from Snapchat? Yeah. Okay. Next question. Is there a transcript of what was said in the video shown? Mr. McClellan says he's not going to know that. There's not, the court says, okay. Mr. McClellan says, but he's not going to know that. Ms. Auger says, no. Mr. McClellan says, and that's part of the motion in limine that we need to discuss at some point. Court says, yeah, we need to talk about that. I'm glad you said that. We'll talk about it later. Okay. And then we'll break. Sidebar conference concluded. Now, jury questions in front of the jury read by the court. Lieutenant, what was the February 13th time when the longitude and latitude was taken on the picture of Libby and Abby's location? February 13th, 2017 at 2:13 p.m. Any follow-up, Mr. McClellan? No, Your Honor. Ms. Auger? No. What information is on the Knowledge C database? From my understanding, the Knowledge C database is something that essentially Apple tracks a lot of data and says it's not there. But in law enforcement, we were able to figure out, or Cellbrite and some other providers were able to figure out that this database existed and the database consists of some of your health data, GPS coordinates, recent location, frequent locations, how many steps that you've ran or walked, all kinds of data, elevation data, all kinds of data that the phone uses to help the user experience, if you will. But that's a limited amount. There's so much data that we've been able to, the power logs, the screen on, screen off, a second by second activity of what is happening on that phone. Court says, Mr. McClelland, and he does have a follow up. Did you know that data existed on February 15th of 2017? No, we did not. We did not know anything about. We didn't know the name of Knowledge C database or even that that database existed at that point. Do you know when you found out about that database? It was probably around 2018 or 2019, just guessing. And when was Ms. Auger asked, and when Ms. Auger asked you about information that's lost when the phone is turned on and off, is it information within the Knowledge C information that is lost? Possibly, yes. Okay. Can other information outside the Knowledge C information be lost? Possibly, yes. What about pictures and videos and text messages? Can those be lost? If they're deleted, yes. Bad question. Can they be lost by turning the phone on and off? No. Okay. I don't have any other questions, Judge. Ms. Auger? No. Next question from the jury. Was the report from October 2017 from Indiana State Police or Homeland Security? So it was from Indiana State Police. We talked about, the extraction. So the extraction is what Homeland Security or U.S. Customs, either way you want to look at it, that's what they did. They gave me the extraction. I took the extractions 1, 2, and 3, put it in my Cellbrite program. It's called Physical Analyzer. Put it all together and then spit out one report that has all the data in it. Mr. McClellan, I don't have any questions, Judge. Ms. Auger says no. Was the database, um, It was the Knowledge C database produced by Homeland Security. I believe so, yes. Now that we know that it exists, that we believe that was in the method 3 extraction, but we did not know that existed at the time in 2017. Mr. McClelland? A clarifying question. So you believed it was in the method 3 extraction, but you didn't know that it existed within that extraction. Correct. And neither did Cellbrite because they did not parse or pull that information out. Ms. Auger says, you're in 2017. Ms. Auger says, objection, Your Honor, as to what Cellbrite may or may not have known. Overruled. Wow. When you put the extraction data into Cellbrite, it spit out a report, correct? Correct. And I'm talking about October of 2017. I want to be clear. Yes. Once you got the method 3 back, you put the method 1, 2, and 3 in Cellbrite and it spit out a report. Was there information within that report notifying you that Knowledge C information existed? No. Because Cellbrite didn't track that information? No. Okay, so it may have been in the extraction, but it didn't produce any information, didn't make you aware of that in the Cellbrite report. Correct. Okay. Clarifying question. When you say we, who do you mean? Do you mean the cybercrimes unit? Do you mean you? Do you mean when you say we, you said we didn't know that Knowledge C existed? Who are you talking about? Myself included, but also the digital forensics community nationwide, worldwide. We didn't know that that database existed because that was the Knowledge C database? Yes. Okay, no further questions, Judge. Thank you. Ms. Auger? Lieutenant Bunner, just because you didn't know it existed doesn't mean it didn't exist, right? That's correct. You knew it was there, you just didn't know about it. We didn't know it was there. And we can use that information now, correct? Possibly, yes. Thank you. Next question. As of February 15th, 2017, were you aware of any deleted photos or videos? No, I was not. Mr. McClelland. No questions, Judge. Thank you. Ms. Auger. No. If you know, do Snapchat photos save to a person's phone? He says, I would have to dive deeper into that. My understanding is it possibly may save that in the Snapchat database, but I'd have to do further research. Mr. McClelland? No questions, Judge. Ms. Auger? No. If you know, could the iPad associated with the same iCloud account have pulled the location of Memorial Park in the map exhibit? We did examine, or I did examine the iPad associated with Libby. It did have the same iTunes username and Apple ID, but it would not have mis, miscued miscued the location for where the video was taken. That timestamp location it came from the phone. Ms. Cleland, could you have used the iPad to find the location of the phone if you know? It was if it was synced up with the Find My iPhone feature, possibly yes. Do you know if it was or not? I do not know off the top of my head, no. Mr. McLeland says, okay, I don't have any other questions, Judge. Ms. Auger says no. Next question. Was there software in September and October of 2017 that could take the Method 3 Knowledge C export to disseminate it into readable, usable, extracted report? Just a regular report? I'm sorry, can you repeat the question? Was there software in September, October of 2017 that could take the Knowledge C export to disseminate it into a readable, usable, extracted report? No. You asked specifically about the Knowledge C database. At that point, we didn't know it existed, and Cellbrite or any other forensic tool that we had did not parse that database into the fall of September, October 2017. Mr. McLeland? So, Lieutenant Bunner, the way I understand the question is there's nothing, no tool that you had that would take that Knowledge C information and produce it into a report where you could read that would tell you what that information is or read what that information is? No. Objection leading. Sustained. I don't have any other questions, Judge. Okay. Ms. Auger? No. Next question. Did you ever document or take a photograph of the lock screen before the phone was locked to show notifications of the phone since it was last accessed? I don't believe I did. I try to do that, but I don't remember if I did that in this case or not. Mr. McLeland, no questions. Ms. Auger, no questions. All right. Thank you, Lieutenant. You may step down. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and break for lunch. While you are outside of the court, please keep your minds open. Please don't form any opinions or conclusions about anything. You may discuss the evidence that you've heard so far, but please only do that if all 16 of you are present in the jury room at the same time, and then please don't deliberate. Gentlemen, all right. Yeah, all rise. And then jury is out. The court says, let's resume at 2 o'clock, please. Jody, you can go off the record. And that is where we will end for today. So we did complete the total um, testimony of Brian, Lieutenant, not Sergeant, Brian Bunner. And as we found out, he did the extraction of Libby's phone and found the bridge guy and the bridge guy video and the Snapchat photo. So we will get into whatchamacallit, the next witness that Jeremy Chapman is next, as well as Rayleigh Voorhees, who is an eyewitness. So that's going to be law enforcement and an eyewitness in the next episode. Jeremy Chapman is who Brian Bunner was working with to do some data extraction and whatnot, and he's the one that may or may not have altered the photo. I don't know. Of the bridge guy. So that's where I leave you guys. Let me know what you think. This case is crazy. It's getting more and more evident, I think, that there was no real investigation done. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Please be sure to hit the like button, and I will see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, guys. Bye now.